Hey everybody, Bryce Amir Hardy, Bryce Amir Hardy. You know what time it is, Black Experience, Chapter 3, Week 3, one of the most important weeks. If you just coming in now, I advise you to backtrack. Remember this week because this week's very important. Slavery and post-slavery. A lot of people like to discuss and talk about how, oh, well, black people's history starts at slavery. No, brother. Get out the way, get in the car, and let me tell you how this goes. Chapter 1, we talked about ancient civilizations. Chapter 2, we talked about colonization of the Western world. Chapter 3, we talk about slavery. So there's a war in Ukraine going on right now. The U.S. never fired any missiles at Russia. Donald Trump was involved in negotiating between Russia and Ukraine as a mediator. Vladimir Putin also warned Donald Trump that getting involved will be taken as an act of war. Barack Obama begged the Ukraine to join NATO before the war even took place. Ukraine now begs the U.S. for aid. Ukraine is not an ally, yet the U.S. wants to help by peace negotiations. In places like Nigeria, missiles are sent to detonate in the country. Peace is not asked for. Why? I want y'all to think about that. The U.S. military fired more than a dozen Tomahawk missiles in Nigeria. Remember on Christmas? Remember when Donald Trump said, hit them on Christmas? It'll be a Christmas present? The reason was because he said the Nigerians failed to protect the Christians from ISIS attacks. Quote unquote, they're killing the Christians and they're killing them in large numbers. Now here's this for you, my brothers. Violence doesn't just target Christians. It targets Muslims as well. It targets everybody. Does it not? Last time I checked, violence wasn't specific to a group of people. Insurgents target both people. The Capitol was stormed. Was it January 5th? January 4th. My days could be wrong. You know, I got a little foggy memory. Might have to do some fact checking. But a civilian stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. And look what happened to those same people that stormed that Capitol building. They were charged, arrested, and convicted in federal court for doing what they did. Donald Trump got elected. First thing he did when he came in office, pardoned every single one of them. That's an interesting phenomenon that's been happening in the last couple of years. There was a George Floyd riot. If you're unfamiliar with George Floyd, he was the man who was murdered by a police officer, strangled in cold blood, left to die on the sidewalk. The trial was on C-SPAN. You know, the United States was in uproar. Everyone wanted this police officer to be convicted. He eventually was. Alhamdulillah. Protesters were met with force. George Floyd didn't get a pardon. The people arrested for rioting, breaking into stores and doing all this stuff were not pardoned. They were prosecuted to the utmost scrutiny. If I remember correctly, Donald Trump said, if they're looting, we are shooting. Yeah, he was in office when this was happening. He didn't pardon any of those people who got in any trouble during then, but he decided to pardon every single person that stormed the Capitol building. Another note. Now I want to ask you guys, Willie Lynch, do you know about the making of a slave? And that it was designed in 1712, the perfect way to enslave black people? By keeping a black man in a state of fear, he will never resist. Now this is their philosophy, Willie Lynch theory. By showing the black man he will be gunned down in the street, he will be afraid of death. Death is inevitable, my brothers. Why are we so afraid? Because our mother said to follow the rules and don't cause trouble. You know, everybody wants to be a good boy. We want to all listen to our mothers. But who of you has tried to stay neutral in this whole interaction and has still been harassed? Trouble has become the black man's shadow. He follows us. We'll get into the making of a slave. By a show of hands, I can see you guys. Just think about it. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, you're watching this from home. Raise your hand up, you know, got something to say. Who believes slavery is over? If I raise my hand, I'd be wrong. I would say so because I don't believe slavery is over. It's a mental manipulation. Listen to this. No Negro, whether slave or free, could ever be considered a citizen of the United States. That was by Roger B. Taney, a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. And if we were never considered citizens, what are we? There's two parts to enslavement. Physical labor equals psychological training. Boom, part one. And part two, breaking the wildest black man in front of everyone. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that because if you know your biggest friend that's always getting and doing everything, challenging everything, and you see that person die before your very eyes, what would that tell you? Like, oh man, that could happen to me because he was the strongest, he was the most powerful, he was the state of fear. Mentally, boom, once they got you mentally, boom, physical enslavement ensues. Before prison, we were wild. The black man is tamed just like a horse, just like an elephant, just like a dog. We are wild animals to the white man. Willie Lynch has written a letter for controlling black slaves, and he guaranteed it will control slaves for 300 years. If you do the math, I'm pretty good at math. I can do it in my head, but I want you guys to write it down if you need to. If this letter was written in 1712, add 300 years to it. Do 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 do. Yeah, the Jeopardy song. Yeah, we just did that. 2012. So we were set up for enslavement until the year 2012. So why have we not broken the cycle? Why are people still in prison? Why are people still going to prison? Why are we still killing each other? Why are we being killed by law enforcement? There's so many questions here that are unanswered. It's because three weapons are used against us. Fear is used. When Daddy sent to prison, we don't want to do what Daddy did. Fear is one of the biggest weapons used against us. Distrust is used. We don't trust each other. We rather trust another. Black men don't trust each other. When's the last time you let your brother borrow $500 and he said he was going to come back with it? Well, I don't remember. When's the last time when your uncle said, hey nephew, let me get 20,000. If he asks you for 20,000, say I'll get back to you next week. That throw a strike off in your head. You think to yourself, maybe he's trying to scam me. I don't know what's going on here. You know, we don't trust each other, and that's not a good thing because when it comes to white people, they trust each other. They'll go to each other and say, hey man, I need to borrow $1 million, and they'll say, oh, here's $1 million, good sir. I need it back by next Friday, and when he comes back next Friday, he got that $1 million. That's the trust. That's like, man, why don't we have that ability? That's a problem in our community. These taxes are used to cause division amongst our race, amongst our people, and that's why we don't have a community, because in community is the word unity. We have no unity within our people because we're all in disarray. A house divided will not stand, and our house has fallen. There is no black house. There is only a white house. That's interesting, huh? We should be able to create a black house, and we should be able to do things the way we want to do them. We should be able to stand on our own 2 feet. But to this day, we have been unable to come together as a people in solidarity and establish a good cause that doesn't fall. The theory of slavery is to keep the body and to take the mind. The body is useless without control of the mind. Ego, pride, and lust prohibit power, and power is control over oneself. There's a misconception. People think that strength is power. Strength is in numbers. Power is over oneself. So people that understand self-control are powerful, and people that have a lot of friends to help them do what they need to do are strong. The enslaver must get the potential slave to believe he has no power. That's where that fear kicks in. When that fear kicks in, you give your power away because you're fearful to do something. You lose your freedom to choose. Once the belief that free will is relinquished and one must do enslavement is successful. To believe you have no choice and no say-so means that you're not in control of your own thoughts. And that's a bad mamma. I'll tell you that. That's like a pickle jar. You know how hard it is to get in the pickle jar? Have you bought a pickle jar from Fred Byers and try to open it for the first time? You probably got to use a whole bunch of muscle power. You know, that's what I thought it was. But I tried to use a paper towel. I couldn't open it with a paper towel. I couldn't open it with the hot towel. I couldn't open it with my own bare hands. You know what I figured out how to open a pickle jar? You don't. It just stays closed. It's too hard to open. I just decided to stop buying pickles. I just can't open a pickle jar. Slavery is a psychological battle we are waging against ourselves. We are free to choose to believe, but a lot of us don't understand that concept. Freedom means we as black men are given freedom as a right from God. When we were created on this earth, we already have freedom. So why have we lost it? Enslavers use techniques to curb our urges for freedom. These techniques involve ankle bracelets for house arrest, work release in prison as forms of punishment. Handcuffs are equivalent to chains. Batons are used like whips. Correctional industries is equivalent to cotton fields. Yeah, that got us working in here for less than $1 an hour. Last time I checked, I think it was 35 cents. Man, that's a bad paycheck. The slave owners try to make us dependent upon them. Eating food when they allow us to, they call mainline. Recreation when yard is called. Going so far as to provide us with medical treatment. They're treating us like dogs, huh? They got us on the health insurance complaint and talking about some 15 minutes or more can save you time at Geico. Like, man, this is crazy right here. We are no use till America is dead. But while we are alive, money will be made off our banks. We, the people, are the real U.S. dollar. And as soon as that gets across to you, the sooner this course will make sense. Women and able children's dependence. Can anyone explain pimping to me? Why it happens, what it requires to be a pimp? So usually the pimp is enabled by the prostitute and vice versa. The prostitute is enabled by the pimp. He may be sheltered as a child where his mother took care of his every need. As a baby needs breast milk, a man needs food. And what happens when a grown man is still sucking breast milk from his mother? The process of taking the father out the house can cause the male child to stay in a state of dependence. Men were created to care for their families. We were not created to be taken care of by our families. And there comes a time we must all grow up. There are 3 main points we'll talk about for the group discussion, and we're going to wrap this up. Boom. What are the 3 main weapons used to enslave black people? You know, we just talked about it. That's for you to know. These are the quick questions. Jabs, like Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly. Sting like a bee. How have these 3 weapons been used in modern America? And in what ways can we as black men stop the making of a slave? How have you dealt with the psychological trauma individually? And in what ways would you heal from what has been done? What will you do as a black man for the black community to ensure the next generation escapes the cycle of Willie Lynch syndrome? The lasting effects of slavery were inferiority complex, conformity to religion, punishment of children. Yeah, we whip our children because of slavery. That's interesting. Children don't need to be whooped. Why do they need to be whooped? You could put your child on timeout. You can tell your child they can't play video games or can't get some chocolate chip cookies. Why are we whipping our kids, man? Because the slave master used to whip us, so we going to whip the kids? Nah, man, that ain't right. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, a term used by W.E. Du Bois. But how are we supposed to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps? We did. Black Wall Street, but it got knocked down. There's economic disproportion and inequality of wealth. I advise everybody to go check out that Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave, written by Willie Lynch. It's available. You can go get you a copy. Go check it out. That was another episode of the Black Experience program. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Chapter 3, Week 3, Making of a Slave. Bryce Amir Hardy logging in is now logging out.